If you're an Amazon seller that's wanting to boost up your Amazon listing pages conversion rates so your PPC ads perform better and you can rank higher organically, then you gotta keep watching this video because I'm about to be talking with Drew from Bullseye Sellers, and it's always great to talk with another person in the same space as me. You know, I run an Amazon agency, he runs an Amazon agency, so he's gonna be sharing some tips and strategies on what they do for their clients as far as boosting up Amazon listing pages conversion rates. So before we jump into talking with Drew, let me first tell you who I am and what we do inside Evolve Media. So if you don't know, Evolve Media Agency is an Amazon marketing agency. So we purely focus on working with Amazon sellers and we help them with boosting up their listing pages conversion rate, building out Amazon storefronts, building out the brand story section, overall getting their performance and scalability of their Amazon store a lot better. So how do we do this? Well, we start with product photo shoots and product video shoots. So we look at the Amazon listing page as the foundation of the overall Amazon business. And if we can get the conversion rate of that Amazon listing page higher, then everything else falls into place. Your ROAS and your ACOS perform and look a lot better. So if you are wanting to significantly boost up the conversion rate of your Amazon listing page, get an Amazon storefront built out, get a brand story built out for your listing pages, then book a free consulting call with me by going to emaamz.com. Real quick, what we can cover on this consulting call is helping you find your listing pages conversion rates for your different ASINs and then how to actually increase that and get that higher and what that we can kind of project what that may do to your overall Amazon PPC ad spend. So if that sounds cool to you, then book a free call with me by going to emaamz.com. All right, so now let's jump into the interview, the conversation with Drew from Bullseye Sellers. What's up, Drew? Thanks for jumping on this video with me, man.
Yeah, thanks, Ian. I'm really happy to be here, man. I'm excited about this.
For sure, man. And today we're going to be talking about conversion rate optimization and how to get listings to the next level as far as conversion rate. So Drew is definitely going to be giving us some value and some insights on that. But before we jump into it, Drew, tell us who you are and what company you're with.
Yeah, sure. So Drew Hart, I head up the advertising management at Bullseye Sellers. Bullseye is a full service Amazon agency. We help, sellers with advertising, obviously, but we also help them with account management and really a lot of the very important tasks for them to be successful on Amazon.
Okay, awesome. So let's jump right into it. What is that first thing regarding conversion rate boosting and getting the listing converting a lot better, Drew, that you want to share?
Yeah, this is the thing we were talking about before the call. It's really interesting to me, from our perspective as the advertising agency, a lot of our conversations really focus in and around ACOS and the performance of the ads. And it's a very narrow perspective in terms of where those conversations can go when we're first working with some of these sellers or our clients. But then what we do is we spend a lot of time actually educating the sellers about the complexity of what it means to manage around ACOS. And one of the things that's really, really important is this concept of the conversion rate and how influential it really is to this metric of ACOS.
Yeah.
We'll include some diagrams, to kind of walk through this. But, at a very high level, if you take ACOS and you break it down, there's really three parts to that metric. There's the conversion rate, which is orders and clicks. There is the price point that you sell your product at. And then there's the cost per clicks. Those are the components of how you do that metric. What we do when we're working with sellers, we spend a lot of our time just really breaking down how conversion rate plays a significant impact to the performance of not just the sales velocity and the amount of sales that they're doing, but the actual ad performance. And then even over time, this is something that happens where over time we see when conversion rates are doing really well and they're really healthy, that Amazon even provides additional benefits where they're making the cost per click even cheaper for you. And so it's got additive effects beyond just getting a better listing. But I think it's really underrated.
Well, what's crazy to me is that there's a ton of PPC management companies out there, right? And a lot of these PPC management companies don't do anything with conversion rates. They just run the ads. But conversion rates and the overall content on the listing page is everything because that's what's going to determine your ACOS, your ROAS. If you double the conversion rate, you're going to see a massive jump in the data as far as ROAS and ACOS. One thing that I have learned just talking to a lot of Amazon sellers when they book a free consulting call with me is that a lot of sellers don't even know their conversion rate or where to even find their conversion rate, which is kind of mind-blowing to me because that is pretty much like a great metric to look at when you're looking at the performance of your listing page. And anything you can do to increase that conversion rate of your listing page is going to trickle down and ripple to the cost of your PPC ads and how much you're spending and if you're profitable or not. And then if you want to expand from that and do some off Amazon marketing with Google search ads, or even just expand your product line, conversion rates are definitely something everybody needs to be looking at and trying to increase.
Totally. I totally agree. It's funny. It's, like from your perspective, you're having conversations with people about, content, media, and very listing focused discussions. We're starting those conversations from an advertising perspective. So those conversations start out with, how are you going to hit my goals? How are you going to, maintain this ROAS or this ACOS? And if we don't unpack that and really understand the full chain of what the shopper journey is, what their experience is, how they're evaluating your product versus competitor products, understanding what kind of questions and objections that they might have, and how do you convey that quickly, easily, that is what affects conversion rate. It's like, again, when we're talking with, folks who, everybody understands what conversion rate is, but if you really break it down, it is the ultimate shopper behavior metric, right? I mean, physically, people are either on their mobile phone tapping on your product and hitting the buy now button, or they're doing the same thing with a mouse, right? They're clicking and they're buying. Well, when you start to think about that, it's like, oh, okay, well, if conversion rate is this, huge component of my advertising cost, and that's related to a shopping behavior, how do you influence that? And it's really straightforward. Like, you need to have amazing images, amazing photography. You need to make sure that you're dealing with communicating all the value propositions that are relevant to the shopper, not what you think is valuable, what a shopper thinks is valuable. And then also addressing questions and objections. We've done consumer focus groups with actual real shoppers. I sell products. And so before I decide I'm making a product or if I'm trying to figure out how to build that listing out, we actually go meet with real shoppers first. And one of the things that's really surprising to me is that they have fears and doubts around the quality of these purchases. Even with Prime, even with free returns, they don't want to go spend, 10, 20, 30 bucks on a product and then have to deal with the return process as well. So getting those things nailed down is really important. And, we've got a checklist that we share with our clients to give them an overview. What are those considerations? It's very surprising to me when we bring on these clients that they will have listings that show beautiful imagery. I mean, they just do a really, really nice job of showcasing their product, but there's literally no copy on there at all, telling the shopper, what are they looking at? Why is this important to them? And how does it affect their purchasing decision?
Well, go ahead and walk us through that checklist that you have, because I think that'll be very beneficial for people. I think we've already sold them enough on the conversion rate metric. I think so let's jump into the value of what are those tactical, in the weeds things that they can do to add into their listing?
Yeah, sure. So, just kind of going through this checklist, you've got different types of images and imagery that you can put in there, but it's also content, right? So what we showcase to our clients, it looks like we're really just talking about the product images. That is a huge part of a product listing, arguably more important than the bullets, because people really those images are large. They're flipping through them on their phone, or they're looking at them on their desktop. But it's things like, communicating the benefits and the features of the product, obviously, helping them. And not all of this list fits for every product, but this is just kind of a comprehensive list. Another one is do you need to showcase how the product is manufactured or where it's sourced, and then communicate why that matters to shoppers for their decisions. Are you effectively doing a comparison, and not just showing what you do versus what other competitors do, although that's important, but focus on specifically on what is that differentiation for the shopper. If you've got packaging, really high quality packaging, you really should consider showcasing that. Especially for products that are giftable. People want to know, if I purchase this and it shows up at my house, can I just wrap it up and then gift it? Or is there more that's involved, once I purchase this? Another one is guarantees and what kind of commitment can you promise to shoppers to make them feel that you're really kind of backing up what you say around quality? Do your images really focus in on where quality concerns might exist? Think about soft goods where you've got stitching or zippers or buttons or the types of ingredients that go in there. Are there instructions that are necessary to kind of communicate to the shopper? And these may not be like the full set instructions if you've got something that's complicated to make, but if they do have a question around like, well, what's involved in kind of putting this together, does your product listing at least provide a high level overview of like what the install or installation and instructions would look like? For consumables, like whether it's food or beauty products, things that like go on the skin or in the body, what are the ingredients, and can they read the labels? This is something that comes up all the time. We're working with like, supplement companies, and they literally take a photo of the label on the back of the product instead of just using like the actual print PDF. It's really high res. People can get in there and look at it. They want to. Font size of the images, things that you want to communicate. Is it clear? Is it big enough to be able to be read? And you got to keep in mind that 70% of shoppers are shopping on their mobile phone. So it's already by default, the format's going to be small in the first place. You got to make sure that the sizing is accurate. And then if you have the opportunity, depending on how the size of your catalog, you do have opportunities that, potentially use some of those images to do some cross-selling on your products.
So, I mean, these are all infographic images having a lot of sales copy. So many times I see an image that lacks sales copy. It's just literally a photo, like a lifestyle photo, and they didn't put any sales copy. And I'm like, man, they're just wasting opportunity there, just leaving money on the table with that one main image slot just wasted, because the shopper isn't going to get that much information on that image. But when it comes to photos and videos, a lot of this stuff can also be covered in a video. What are your thoughts, Drew, on the amount of consumption? I would assume that a lot of shoppers consume a lot of photos and they may not watch the video. Maybe it's only 15, 20% of people that actually watch the video. But what are your thoughts on how a video impacts the conversion rate of the listing in comparison to photos?
Yeah, when these videos are done really well, the conversion rates are really, really good, right? And that's like, again, not to belabor the point, like conversion rate is like the ultimate metric. Like, is this thing working? Is this working or is it not working? And the reason is we're pulling out price and cost per click from that data. But yeah, man, I mean, my take on it is like, especially like for sponsored brand videos, there's so much you can convey in 5 seconds, 10 seconds about what this product is and how it can help them and benefit them before they've even done a click. If you look at it in comparison to like a typical sponsored product, still, static image, you have the hero, which, if you're following terms of service, it's a white background with just the product in there. And there's just not a lot of content to be able to communicate to somebody, this is of interest to you, it's high quality, it's valuable, like it's going to meet your needs. With a really well produced video, you can convey all of those types of messages to get enough interest to at least get the click. And then once they're into your product listing, you can do that much more, right? With more images, maybe a different video, right? That provides even more content and context around, what this product is and how it can help the shopper.
Yeah. And real quick for the viewer, message for the viewer, if you guys have made it this far in the video, please do click that like button, leave a comment below if you have any questions, and please do subscribe to the channel. But also, if you have questions about how to find your conversion rate, for certain ASINs or any more questions about conversion rates, please do book a free consulting call with me by going to emaamz.com. But now let's go ahead and proceed on. I got to ask Drew, how do you guys get the process rolling when you onboard a brand new client? And let's say you're going to do PPC ads or full brand management. Do you guys do a full audit and look at their different ASINs and the conversion rates and then make recommendations to them on how they can get that conversion rate higher before you go and spend a bunch of money on PPC?
Yeah, totally. That's a great question. So those discussions take two different paths, right? Maybe even three. If we're working with a client, we really don't believe that their product listing's in a really healthy place. We'll tell them, don't spend money right now because you're just going to be, letting it on fire. You need to get your listings refreshed, updated. You need to be competitive before you start spending a significant amount of ad spend on your product listing. So we'll literally, and we do this because we're full service. Even if they're starting the conversation with us, we'll do exactly what you're talking about. We'll audit it, we'll review it, we'll share that feedback, and then we'll move them into a product listing service before we come in back and revisit the ad spend. In fact, there's a large beauty brand right now that we're working with that's going through that process, and they're just about to be finished with the product listing phase.
Nice.
But if we do take them in, because the product listings are fine and they want to increase their sales. It's their business. They choose what they want to do. But their product listings aren't terrible, but there's definitely room for improvement. We'll work with them on that. We'll give them like spotted suggestions. We'll use data to try to like, give them some data evidence. But honestly, a lot of it is just, hey, we know what your competitors look like. We've identified them. Here's what they're doing. We think that some of their ideas are really good. You should consider doing them. And then they take it or leave it at that point. But those that do, Ian, it's a really profound impact, on what it does, not only just for their sheer sales volume, but they're actually doing it in a much, much more efficient way from an ACOS perspective.
Gotcha. Now, obviously we've been talking a lot about listing page conversion rate optimization, and there's a lot of stuff you can do for the listing page, right? Great main images, video on it, EBC content, maybe answering and getting some more frequently asked questions or customer Q&As on there. Your videos in the slide or more reviews, all that kind of stuff is great for conversion rates. But Drew, what is your opinion on building a storefront and the actual brand story? This is a somewhat new section for listing pages, so having a brand story section built out and having a storefront, how do you see those two things play a role in overall conversion rates?
Yeah, totally. So there's a couple of different ways to answer this, but if I'm a shopper and I kind of step away from like the advertising units and placements and stuff. If I'm a shopper and I want to really, I don't know your brand, I'm trying to get acquainted with your brand. You kind of bring me into the family through my first purchase. The storefront's really just going to help me understand like about more great products that might be available, different flavors, variations, different solutions, right, within that category, et cetera. And it also really supports the credibility and, the quality. And, it sounds like it's like really not an important topic, but honestly, like, subconsciously shoppers are making all sorts of decisions to try to understand, like, when I purchase this product, is it something that I'm going to be happy with or disappointed with? And I think even this audience, the people that are listening to this call, we've all had that experience where we're like, wow, we saw a great listing. We were, kind of interested in it. And when we got it, it was really lackluster results. We almost feel like we were like given a bait and switch. So, those storefronts really help boost that credibility around that shopper experience. That's my take on it.
Yeah. So a storefront does increase conversion rates because it builds that trust, credibility, maybe cross sells. I mean, what I really love about storefronts is that you can put multiple videos on a specific product page. You can create a whole entire page dedicated to one or multiple products of yours. If they complement each other, you can have different variations. You can add to cart right from that product page, multiple videos, multiple images that are maybe a little bit more social proof driving. They have like a collage type of image of multiple people wearing your product or showing it off, building that trust, because you can't do some of these things with the EBC content because it's just not allowed. So you can do it with the storefront. So also, if you're running PPC ads that are like brand ads, sponsored brand campaigns that are linking to storefront pages, you can kind of, do these selling tactics.
Yeah, totally. I mean, like kind of folding in the layer now of advertising, at that point, it's like we kind of just very generically, we're looking at shoppers from two vantage points, right? Those that are primed to convert, like their wallet's open, they're ready to buy. In those instances, are you going to use a sponsored product campaign, or they'll click the sponsored brand video that we were talking about before. But if they're really kind of just like, they're looking for something new, right? Like a shampoo and conditioner, and they're just like kind of want to like change up their routine. They're more in this discovery mode. And so what you're able to do there is you can use a sponsored brands, product collection. You can showcase, I've got 3 different types of shampoos that are available. And then when they click into it, they either can go to the product or they can look at like the wider catalog of the different shampoos and conditioners that might be available. And that really does let shoppers like understand like, wow, they've got options, and the brand that they're purchasing from is, it's a reputable brand.
Yeah, definitely. So before we wrap up, do you have any last hard-hitting golden nuggets that we can share with the audience?
I think people really struggle with like, where do I go get content and ideas and concepts for things like that? So I've got a couple of tips. So the first one would be is, obviously look at your direct competition. That's a no-brainer, but look outside of it. One example that we had recently was a company that is, they actually produce like DIY kits for kids and their birdhouses. So we went and looked at their birdhouses as, their competitors that also sold birdhouses. But then we just more generically looked at like these kids, build it like DIY kind of kits. And all kinds of other things like those race cars and train sets and, whatever it was, trying to figure out like, what are they doing to try to like address values, shopper questions, objections, things like that. And then the other thing is, don't just do it on Amazon. Go find out what people are doing on their .coms. Look at Google searches. This doesn't take a lot of time to have to go do that. And then what we will end up doing is we'll create an outline of these different image types that we want to have and things we want to address. And then we'll put a collage of like what other competitors are doing. Then we'll bring that to the discussion for the agency or the service that we're working with to do the actual image. Now we're all on the same page in terms of like what the research is, what this all looks like. It doesn't take a lot of time. It's not super duper hard, and it really does produce great results.
Yeah, that's awesome. So it sounds like you guys definitely go the extra mile for your clients, and that's really cool. I mean, even just helping them before you go and spend PPC, let's say they engaged you for just PPC ad management, taking a look at their listing and seeing how can we improve that foundation with the conversion rate and images and things like that before we go and spend some money. Because like you said, we may just be lighting it on fire. So really cool.
I mean, honestly, like the biggest friction point for us as an advertising agency is that we don't perform. But if we have one arm tied behind our back because a product listing just really isn't at its optimal state, I mean, we're not doing our job, and we're not doing a good job and a good service for our clients. So everything really centers around like what the shopper is going to do. That's the product listing. It's their behavior. It's clicks and orders. Like that's what it takes. So if we're not helping our clients understand that and helping them support it with like some evidence and some recommendations and even services, for people to actually go and execute on it. I just feel like we're doing half of our job, which is not good enough.
Yeah. Well, thank you big time, Drew, with Bullseye Sellers, for jumping on this video and sharing some value with the audience. Thank you, viewers, for watching this video, and hopefully you got some value from it, and we'll catch you in the next one.